Hey y'all, I'm James Wright and welcome to the shop. Today is time for another Wood by Wright Live. I know we have been gone for 2 weeks. Sorry about that. I was out of state and indisposed last week. And then the week before that we had all sorts of YouTube issues and it just didn't work out. So we're going to be having a little bit of fun today doing sliding dovetails. And every time I say that to someone who doesn't know what a sliding dovetail, the first question is, what in the world is a sliding dovetail? Don't all dovetails slide together? A sliding dovetail is just a longer dovetail, so it has to slide through a longer gap than your normal end joint dovetail. But we'll be getting into that a little bit more. There is actually nothing coming up on my calendar for meets, to which my wife is very happy. So I don't have anything particularly planned right now. I will be going to the fall MWTCA meet. I don't remember exactly where that is at, but it's on my calendar. So if you want to see that, go to mwtca.org and you can look up the meets on there. Wow, that was probably pretty loud for you. I may also have a sinus infection, or I don't know if it's sinus infection or just the aftermath of a cold. So you're going to have to bear with me tonight. What am I forgetting? I don't have much to talk about this time because we've gotten through everything. 2 weeks ago was the Midwest Tool Collectors National Meet, and that was a ton of fun. So yeah, I don't know if anyone is currently live or not, but we'll forge on.
Well, so, hang on. There's top chat here.
What's that?
Wait.
So while she's looking at that, the dovetails that I'm actually making, we're making small corbels that will go on the bed. And so these are the small ones, and there's also going to be slightly larger ones. And these will connect to the legs at the top and then support the actual top on the headboard and footboard.
So can I refresh this?
What's that?
Well, it looks like there's chat here, but not here.
You want me to take a look? They actually just changed around a bunch of stuff in the live setup on YouTube, so there's always something that comes up. Huh! Let me try this. Then we can do this, and we can do, let's try this. You, pop out. See if that works.
There's our friends.
We do have a bunch of people here. The peoples do like me.
And Rick, we weren't ignoring you. We just couldn't see your comments. So you owe a dad joke.
Oh, I owe a dad joke?
You do. We are here.
Did I put my dad jokes down? I put them down. Man, I don't know where my list went. Oh no, I gotta think of a dad joke off the top of my head.
This could be dangerous.
This is very dangerous. I just saw one recently that was absolutely hilarious, and I couldn't remember what it is now. Wow. My brain's drawing a complete blank. So if someone reads one down below, we will tell it out loud. Yeah, I'll remember one here in a little bit. I have a sheet here because I'm not very good at off the cuff. But I don't know where my sheet went, as I have a whole bunch of really good ones I've been collecting. Oh well. So let me show you what we're actually making here. Is on the ends of the bed, or on the tops of the legs of the bed, we're actually going to be putting in this small corbel that will support the whole thing. Input 1, 2, there we go. So here is the leg of the bed, and on the top, we're going to have this little corbel that will then slide down in. And it will add a little bit more to support the top of this.
Sam Wise just put a dad joke. It says, I don't normally tell dad jokes, but when I do, he laughs. Thanks for saving the day, Sam. Oh, how do you make a milkshake?
Rattle a cow?
Give a cow a pogo stick.
Okay. I love good dad jokes. I love bad dad jokes too. So let me show you what we're actually
How many jokes can a dad joke if a dad could joke?
So we need to make these diagonal things. The problem is making this dovetail here on the end is very difficult with it in a triangular form. That being because there really is no way to clamp this without putting some separation in there. So what I'm doing is I'm actually making them two at a time, like this. And you can see how one is here, and the other one is on the other side there. And so I can make all of the dovetails on this and then cut them apart. That way it's easier to work with and manage. So today we're actually going to be making the dovetails in this block, so we're going to do them all around. And then we're going to take this piece which I already have done and slide it into the leg here. So I'll show you how to make that slot as well. And we're all just going to do it with chisels. I used to show how to do it with a dovetail plane, which I don't see. Where's my dovetail? Oh, there it is. And a dovetail plane is basically a molding plane that just has a wedge on the end. So its profile is really, really simple. And these make it really nice for long, big dovetails. But honestly, there are ways of doing it without this, and I want to show you how to do that. You don't need one of these to make dovetails. It just makes them easier if you're working with a longer one. So let's start with this block here. And the first thing we need to do is measure in how far we're going to be coming to create our dovetail here. Make sure I am in focus, because I usually am out of focus. There we go. So on this one, I'm going to have it 1/4 inch in, and so the dovetail will be 1/4 inch sticking out. And so I'm going to just go around and mark the outside all the way around 1/4 inch in. And I have this marking gauge set up at this exact measurement because I'm going to end up making 10 of these corbels all the way around for this bed, and so I would rather just make them all the same. So if I set up one marking gauge for all of them, we're all good to go. Also, ahead of time I made sure that this block is perfectly square in all 3 dimensions. So we're good to go on there. Now, we can put this into the vise, and all I'm going to do is cut down along those lines. Now, I could use a knife wall if I really wanted to get in and precise, but I'm not a huge fan of knife walls. They do work really well, but I just find it's one more step, and I like to eliminate steps whenever possible. And I'm going to cut down about 1/8 of an inch. And if you noticed, I haven't actually put in any depth stop to know how far down to cut. That's because it really doesn't matter in this case. I'm just going to go down to around there. That's it. We can do the other side. Any questions on doing this?
Yes, there was one. What was it?
What's that?
Cody Bryant wants to know, what tools did you buy at the tool meet?
I bought a set of auger bits for my beam drill. I bought a cowbell, and I bought...
He thought he had a fever.
What's that? Bought one other thing. I honestly didn't buy much. There were 2 auger bits, a cowbell, and something else that wasn't quite a tool either. It was very important to me, as you can see. Yeah, I honestly don't buy much at the tool meets anymore. I have enough tools, and I don't like to buy tools just to collect tools. As a matter of fact, we're probably going to be at a garage sale here in a couple weeks, and I'm going to be selling a whole bunch of tools that I just don't need. So yeah, if anyone's near McChesney Park, let me know, and I'll give you the garage sale time for it. But yeah, I don't normally buy a lot when I go to the meets anymore. I just am more there for the people and the time. So let's do these ones on the end as well. I like that. And then into this one, and then we can actually turn these into tails. And this is one of the parts where people really get bent out of shape because they think that the tails need to be absolutely perfect in every way possible, and that chisel is horribly dull. Let's grab this.
Oh yeah, tape measure for Arthur.
No, that was given to him.
Oh, it was given.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you're cute and 6.
Yeah, he was given several things actually. A couple of them broke before we even got home. On this, I'm actually just going to wiggle in here, and I'm just going to put it at this particular angle. I'm staying away from the very tip here. I'm just coming in. Let me actually zoom in a little bit more so you can see.
So why are you doing that?
I'm putting the dovetail on the end of this.
Oh.
So basically, it is turning into this block here on the end.
Ah.
And so I'm putting in this angle.
Gotcha.
So I'm not starting right at the corner. I'm moving in a little ways. And then I'm going to back up a little bit more. And if I really was picky about this, I would set up some sort of jig or whatnot to hold my chisel at the desired perfect angle. But I'm really not picky about that. I just want the angle to be something around that. And as long as I let my fingers and hand kind of memorize that angle, I can keep that same angle all the way around. And even if that angle is slightly off or slightly different, that really doesn't matter. Then when going with the grain, it's a little bit more difficult because you want to make sure you don't bust anything out. I just want to go a little ways along, chip that out. And this is a really stringy piece of white oak. Then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to back up towards the corner, just come in at an angle, and create my dovetail all the way along there like that. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. And if this were a longer one, just clean out the schmoo that's stuck back down in there. If this were a longer one, I may come in and cut with the saw, or I may grab a dovetail plane. Let me back up a little bit. I may grab a dovetail plane and let the dovetail plane then sit in that groove and cut that angle down. But because it's so short, this plane would become sloppy and there would be hard to hold it in place. And it's really quick to just come in with a chisel, pop that out, and you've got your tail on there. I'll do the same thing on this side and then the same thing on the other side and then cut this down. But to save time, voila, we now have this. I have the dovetail here and a dovetail here. And you can see how this would have been, that piece there, just cut at an angle, not 45. It's like, I don't know, some other degree. Any questions?
Yes. Let's see. Troy Jacobson asked, what'd you ask? Have you thought about selling at a meet and make a video of it?
Selling what?
Tools at a meet and making a video.
I have thought about selling tools at a meet. The problem with selling tools at a meet is you have to be there to actually sell them. And I prefer to be able to walk around and talk to people and shoot the video of the actual meet. Focusing on one booth alone just doesn't make too good of a video. Though it is a nice place to sell tools. And if you do need to sell tools, yeah, tool meet is the place to go.
There you have it.
It's the same price. Well, you have to spend a little bit more to rent the booth. It's like $10 more. But it's the same price to get in if you're selling as if you're buying. Yeah, so let's lay this out. Now the next thing I need to do is figure out where my sliding dovetail groove is actually going to go. So let's set this up. There we go. And on to 2. So here in the end, I need this to slide in. And I want it to be centered this way. And I don't want it to go down too far, and I don't want it to cut back too far. So I'm going to start by marking how deep it needs to be. I'm going to kind of eyeball center at the moment. I'm going to hold it in place and mark the very end here where it intersects. Got it moving. There's my stop line. Now we need to figure out how wide to make this. The problem is if I put a mark here on this side and a mark on this side, that's not how wide the top needs to be. That's where the board goes. I actually need to know the width inside of the groove here. And so for that, I like to actually pull out a pair of calipers, put it on there, and actually measure the width inside of the groove, which is 0.35. So I can lock that off there, bring this out, and then I can set this on and use this to then set where that ever needs to be. To find out precisely where that needs to be, then we can pull out this stupid thing called a tape measure, and we can see that it's just over 1/2 inch. So that's going to mean 3.5, so that means 1 3/4 inch. So what I'm going to do is come over here to 1 3/4 inch, make a mark there. Then I'm going to set this on here, make a mark there, and then just to make sure, I'm going to see if that's 1 3/4 inch. Close enough. Now I want to carry those lines up, so if I grab a marking gauge, it's easy enough just to put one pin in here and mark that up. And so these then become the lines that I want to cut down. These are the inside of the dovetail, the skinny point. Any questions yet?
Yeah, there's a couple.
Okay.
Let's see. Blue Kestral asked, would it be possible to make a dovetail plane?
It is on my list. It has been on my list for a long time, and it will probably be on my list for a little while longer. I do want to do a couple videos on making molding planes and a couple of things that might actually end up being a decent live video sometime of making a plane and doing a couple different videos of making the body and then making the iron. We'll see. But yeah, that's on my list. The other thing I need to know is how deep to cut it. And because this marking gauge is already set up, I can put that here on the end, and I can mark the depth of stop here. Now the thing I need to make is I need to mark the size of the tail. So I'll flip this around so you guys can see this. Set this camera up to zoom in. And I'm hoping you guys will be able to see this. There we go. There it is. So what we've got in here is we've got our depth cut here. I don't know
if
that's
see
going
it.
to show up. Let me grab a pencil.
Oh.
And darken that line a little bit so you can see that. Now what I need to know is the angle of the dovetail on either side of this. So what I can do is set this on here, check it out. There it is. There and there. And once that's in place, then I can bring in my marking knife, reach up into that corner, and actually mark on here that tail. And so that's why earlier I was saying it really doesn't matter what angle I put that on, because I can mark it off here as what reality is. And so now when I'm cutting, and actually let me put this in these, make it a little easier to show you guys. Any questions while I set this?
Let's see. TheRealEvora asked, where do you get firewood for woodworking? I wanted to make a joiner's mallet.
Get firewood?
That's what it says.
Alongside the road. Anywhere. Yeah. Yeah, alongside the road. If anytime you go on Craigslist, people are giving it away constantly. Firewood is pretty much all over the place. It literally grows on trees. Oh, I got the eye roll. Yeah, come to my house. I've got piles and piles of it out back that I've never used. Okay, so this. Trying to make this on here so you guys can see this a little bit better.
No.
There we go. Back it out just a hair. And 2. So what we want to actually do now is we want to cut down.
Hang on. It didn't go over.
Oh, thank you.
No.
There we go.
There you go.
What we want to do is cut down here. So I'm going to set it on here. I'm just going to start my nick. I could put in a knife wall, but no need to. And I'm going to eyeball that angle, which is just going to put the saw at this. Now, I'm already down to depth here. And it doesn't matter if I go past the line here, because this is all going to be covered by the top of the frame. I cannot go past the line here, because nothing is going to be covering the end here. So, on this one, just going to keep that angle, and then follow the line back along this way until I get to the stop there. And here I've gone a little bit past. That's not a problem. I'm going to go a little bit deeper, actually. I'll just make it a little bit easier. I know I'm going way down here, and that really scares a lot of people, but it really doesn't change anything in structure or strength.
That wasn't why I was saying whoa.
What's that?
Nothing.
What questions we got?
Let's see. WB Fine Woodworking. James, did you buy the Stanley Number 1 plane this time?
No, I did not buy the Stanley Number 1. There's one there for $600. And it called at me. It said, James, buy me. I did not buy it. $600, it sounds like a lot for a plane, but for Stanley Number 1, it is dirt cheap. But I did not buy it. Sorry, babe. I'll have to buy you a Stanley Number 1 some other time.
That's a lot of sushi and Giordano's and like half a vacation. I don't know. I think you made a good choice.
But the Stanley number 1 is your size.
I know it is.
So now I'm going to chop this down. I'm going to get closer and closer to that line. Just kind of splintering things out. You see how I made a third cut in there. I forgot to say anything about it. The third cut just makes it easier to get these chips out.
Do you mean to be so zoomed out?
Yeah, I'm supposed to be.
Okay, just making sure.
Well, I guess I can go back to this one now.
You got me thinking about food, so you know.
Yeah, the third cut on there just makes it easier to clean out all the chips so that everything kind of pops out. And now I'm going to go into that marking gauge line. Just splinter things out. And I want to deepen my stop cut line here. I'm probably going to deepen it close down to depth. And then we can come back in here and remove more. And at this point on, it's basically carving, which sounds scary. But the nice thing about a sliding dovetail is if you make any problems with the corners, the edges, they all get covered. So it's really not that much of an issue. And then we want to come back in here and cut in. So the big question is, how do you get down into those nooks and crannies? So let me zoom in on this a little bit better.
Whoa. That's not...
Focus! There. Now you can see things. So what I'm going to do is put this at an angle. I'm just going to kind of guess at the angle right now. And tap it back. Ooh, not like that. Let's go right there. And we'll work back along that line. And again, this is why I'm not too picky about where the saw is. Because usually the saw goes offline a little ways. But we can fix things with a chisel. Now that we have that out, we can come in here and clean out all that junk. Now to get back tight into those corners, I can spend a while with this or try and get in there with the marking knife and work back into that corner. But I've got a chisel that's made for this. It's a fishtail chisel or a dovetail chisel. And this will actually get right back into those corners and allow me to clean out everything way back in there, getting a nice tight corner. The other option is, rather than cleaning out these corners, you can round over the corner on the block, the other half of this joint. Come on, get out of there. There it goes. Now I want to flatten out the bottom of this. And I can just do that with a chisel, but if you have a hand router, it makes things so much easier. I already have it set up to the right depth because I'm going to be doing a bunch of these. It also makes it easy for getting back in there. The corner of the router can reach into those corners pretty well. And there we go. There is our slot. Now, this should fit in there. It should go slide all the way back, but that never, ever, ever happens. Never happens. I've never had that happen. So let's see what happens. No. Okay, that's a first. Nope, I gotta go a little deeper. Ah, perfect, good. Didn't go quite deep enough. It's still sticking out a little bit on here. So I gotta pop that out. Okay, so that rarely, that's a first. Usually what happens is you get it in a little ways and it jams up. And so then what you want to do is get down in here and look at the slot. Where does it actually jam? Where does it run into? And look over the slot here, and you'll see one side or the other it's running into. And that's when you bring your chisel in and you work back at that angle and clean it out. But every now and then a magic strikes, and I just need to take it down a little bit deeper. It didn't quite go all the way back. What questions you got?
Let's see. Our Tawney asked, have you thought about selling your tools on eBay instead of at a yard sale?
I don't have anything that's quite worthy of eBay. Most of what I have is junk that I purchased for $5 or $6, and I'm going to sell it for $5 or $6, and that's just not something good for eBay. eBay is where you go when you have something that's worth something. And so No. Also, eBay has a lot of extra work, and I just don't have time for that right now. But when I do sell it, I'll be putting pictures up online, and if anyone's like, yes, I'll buy that plus shipping, and they'll be like, sure, okay. So when we have the garage sale, I'll put up pictures. There we go. That's what we're looking for. Now we have this fitting all the way in there. I'm happy. That honestly, I've never had a sliding dovetail do that before. So, hey, magic happens on live every now and then. Most of the time, it's like, oh no, I cut that too big, and now it won't stay in. So yeah, I'm very, very happy with that. Cool. So that's a sliding dovetail. A lot of people like to make them very complicated and very difficult, but they end up working pretty well. Okay, Google Broadcast, I'm recording. Do not use Google Broadcast right now.
Got it. Broadcasting now.
Sorry if anyone actually has Google in their home and they're listening to this. We have like 4 Google Homes throughout the house. That's how we communicate.
Oh, that just made my night thinking about.
What questions do we have? 'Cause that went a lot faster than I expected. Usually there's a lot of little detail things I'm going to have to work on and fill with things in order to make it work. But I'm happy. That's unexpected.
Oh, sorry. We were bonding over Chicago style pizza and arguing which was the best.
She's talking about food.
Well, it's Chicago style pizza. Hello.
It's called a pizza.
There is only one kind of pizza. It's thick and it's yes. Anyways, did you answer the question about selling tools on eBay?
Yes.
Uh-oh, we're being invaded.
No food. Go play.
But I didn't have big enough of a dinner.
Go eat some yogurt. Whatever you can find, eat. Go. The child is never satisfied.
Never
and
satisfied.
she's this bad.
There's not enough food in this world to fill that girl.
What was I going to say? Ben Simmons asked, best mid-range chisels on the market or ones you would recommend? Not happy with my Wood River ones.
Then I have to ask, why are you not happy with them? Because the Wood River are actually a pretty decent mid-range chisel. And when you start talking about chisels, everyone gets very, very picky about different things. Some people are very picky about the steel, and some people are really picky about the handles, and some people are picky about how they go together. And that is such a personal thing that answering that question is... There's a minefield involved with that, and I don't want to go into that minefield. Nerex chisels are really nice. I'm not a huge fan of the handles on them. They're okay. My go-to chisel are these cheapos from Aldi. I do not like the handle on them. One of these days I'd like to redo them, but the steel on them is okay. It's really good, actually. But the Nerex chisels are really good. I have quite a few of those. That's one of those things that you're going to have to answer for yourself. For me, the most important thing to a chisel is its handle. Does it feel good to you? And I haven't actually come across a chisel that I really like that is for sale.
Oh, I missed that question.
That's openly for sale. So that's one of these days I actually want to make another set of chisel for these Aldis, another set of handles, because I really like the simplicity of the chisel, but the handle is annoying. So, to come.
All right.
What else we got?
Tyler Whatman asked, where do you get your saws and how much were they?
I usually pick them up at antique stores or garage sales. I find them all the time for $3 to $5, and usually there's a pile of 15 to 20 of them, and I dig through that pile, and 1 or 2 of them are worth purchasing. And that's usually where I get most of my saws. And they're rusted, they need to be cleaned up, and they need to be restored, and sometimes there's a horn broken. But then I fix them up and clean them up, and those are the ones I use. My personal desire is to use tools that have been loved and have been discarded. I like bringing those back to life. That makes me happy. But that's not for everyone, though. Some people want them new. I'm not that person. Nor do I have that kind of money.
All right. Jacob Bly asks, how do I tell my woodworking teacher that you don't sharpen tools by making 50 different bevels in the steel blue using a high-speed bench grinder? Don't say anything unless you're really got a good grade.
Sharpening tools is another minefield. You ask 10 woodworkers how to sharpen tools and you're going to get 13 to 14 different answers. There are more ways to do it than there are ways to shake a stick. And let me tell you, I can shake a stick a lot of different ways. And there are no rights or wrongs to them as long as it's done safely. And you get to the final product of having a really nice sharp chisel. And some people really like going into detail and having 1,000 different steps. Like having a jig for everything. Great, more power to you. I'm not a huge fan of using high-speed grinders as they take off more material than they're worth, and there's a chance of endangering the steel, of hardening the steel. And I just know I'm not a fan of that, but some people pull it off really well. So everyone's different.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't show you guys what I was working on. I wanted to show you this. I was actually today working on a bit of timber framing, so hopefully that will be coming out here soon. Let me switch over to this camera. So we've got this being built in the shop right now, which is probably completely out of focus. There we go. So this is going to be the mailbox. And to give you a little idea of scale, this top beam right here is 9 foot long. And then this bottom beam here is 6 foot, so it sticks out from this beam to the end of the mailbox 4 feet. And then it'll have this tenon sticking out the back will have a sign hanging off that. And then I'm going to cut this off here and put on an LED lamp post top. So yeah, and I just ordered a copper mailbox for it, which I think is really cool. So that video will be coming out here soon. Hopefully this video, the initial on this, this will be at least 2 parts. This part will be coming out Saturday, hopefully. So, yeah. Those of you who want to see timber framing, yes, I finally I've been waiting to get the bits for the beam drill, and those are one of the things I did pick up at the tool meet this last week. So happy day. What else we got?
Okay, hang on. They've all of a sudden released questions. Jefariland asked, that saw looks like it belongs in a Japanese anime. It's fantastical. Who made it?
This is my Bearcat dovetail saw, which he made for me as a gift, and I am forever more indebted to him. But it's absolutely beautiful. The wood is myrtle wood with some knotwork in there, and gorgeous, gorgeous saw with a bit of a cant to it. Cant is where it is shorter here than it is here, so there's about a 1/4 inch difference from this point to this point, and that makes it easier when you're cutting through the wood. You don't have to look at the line on the other side, seeing if you're going too deep, because naturally you'll keep the nose up on this. But yes, I love this saw. Absolutely beautiful. His saws are incredible and just beautifully comfortable. The only problem is he has a waiting list that is very, very long. It does some phenomenally good work. What else?
Okay, Mark Baldwin asked, how did you get the cutter to fit on the router plane so well? It seems the screw on mine is too short.
I don't know. Feel free to send me an email. Send me some pictures. There is a link to it in the About Me tab on my channel. But yeah, it comes that way. So apparently you have something that's not original.
What did I do? All right, you ready for another one?
Yeah.
Thad Fleming asked, James, I was gifted about 75 board feet of white oak. Is it worth using?
Is white oak worth using? No, it's not worth using.
Send it to Don.
Send it straight over here, and I will take it off your hands for you. If you don't know, white oak is my absolute favorite wood. It is a difficult wood to work with. It is not an easy wood. but its reward is so phenomenal. It is a beautiful wood to work with. It has so many characters and qualities to it that are fantastic. Most of the furniture in my house is made out of white oak. My bed that I'm currently working on, this leg, is white oak. And so most of the things I've made are oak. Except for my dining room table, the top on that is red oak because I couldn't find a white oak slab. If I could have, I would have. But yes, white oak is my Achilles heel. It's a beautiful wood. Pain to work with, but beautiful wood.
Oh, jeez. Okay. So another question from Jefariland. I got a bunch of wood from my granddad. Is there an easy way to identify what kind it is?
No, no. Wood identification is something you can spend your life working at and learning. And the more woods you work with, the more you can identify. Yes, you can go online to different groups and post the picture up of what wood is this, but a lot of times it's really hard to identify wood from a picture. Coloring are off. You can't actually feel the wood, and there's so much to the texture and the feel of the wood. How does it feel when you run a plane through it? Things like that you just can't really explain. So the best way to identify wood is to experience it. So buy a bunch of woods and play with them, learn about them, and just have a little bit of fun. Yeah, I mean, over time, that's what you're going to be, running into most. Is just kind of experimenting and playing with things. So, yeah, you can buy. There are a bunch of books, and there are a bunch of apps you can get, but most of them rely on identifying the bark and the fruit and the leaf. So if you don't have those, identifying wood can be very tricky and easily to go down the wrong road.
All right, you ready?
Yeah.
S. Ritchie asks, do you know of any cure for hand tool pattern baldness?
No, it's incurable. It's a disease that will follow you for the rest of your life. Honestly, I don't actually shave my hand when I'm sharpening. I only do that for videos because it is explaining to someone what sharp is through a video is incredibly difficult to do because there are many different layers of sharp, and until you feel what actual full sharp feels like, you're missing out. And the best way I can describe it is shaving hair. Now, a dull blade will shave hair, but it will take a bunch of passes. A really nice sharp blade will shave almost every hair on your arm in one pass. A truly beautifully sharp blade will hit every single hair perfectly without any resistance on a single pass. And so that's what you're aiming for. That's what real sharp is. So that's the best way I can describe it. Do I actually shave my hair every time? No. I now know what sharp feels like. When I put it in a plane, I'll run it over the wood and I'll immediately know if it's sharp or not. And it's rare that it's not because I have a system down that I just do, and it produces sharp blades. So I don't actually check every time. That's just a way I can show in the video and actually describe to people. That's what sharp is. So yeah, hope that helps. But yes, there is no cure for the disease.
All right. Tom Feller asks, can you offer any advice on tips making long sliding dovetails? I'm working on a sliding dovetail that is over 24 inches.
Honestly, it's going to be the exact same system. And so when I do that, I'm looking for a saw where the plate, there's some space in between the plate and the handle so that I can actually run all the way past. I have seen people, we use stair saws, but sometimes the stair saw, the frame is too close to the teeth. So I usually use my tenon saw to cut those long grooves. And so I'm just going to hold it at an angle and go to town. Occasionally making sure I go out the end of the board to make sure the teeth can discharge the sawdust that they've clogged up. It takes a little bit of time, but I do the exact same process for longer ones. That is one of the things that are nice about using a dovetail plane, is if I have made the dovetails with the dovetail plane, what I can do is then take this block of wood and clamp it to my work, and then use that as a guide to let the saw slide on the dovetail plane at that angle. And so this can actually be the gauge, the guide that will hold the saw at that angle to cut it. So that's one of the nice things that I've done in the past with those. For longer cuts, that does help out. But for most of the time, I'm just going to cut it by hand to run down it. And it really is a trial and error thing, and it all depends on your hand tool skill with a saw. And you can get better at it by keeping the saw in line with your body, in line with your arm and shoulder, and that will produce a better cut. But the ability to put that angle in it and change everything down at that takes some skill. And the only way to learn skill is to do it. That's one of the big differences between power tools and hand tools. The skill with a power tool is in the setup, and that's something you can read about. You can know you do this, you do this, you do this, you do this, and you get the setup right, and you will get a good product. With hand tools, I can tell you every step you possibly have to do with this, but until you do it, and until you have experienced it, until you've messed up a couple times, you haven't gotten the skill to do it. And the only way to get that skill is to do it. So don't be afraid of messing up. Don't be afraid of making mistakes. That is learning. That is the best way to learn, because it's that intuitive skill that you get. It's not just a rote memory of step by step. It is something that you can feel and become part of. And that's what makes this really fun. Sorry, you got me off on a rabbit trail.
Yeah.
I chasing.
S. Ritchie asked, what is a relatively cheap hardwood?
Red oak. Red oak is most everywhere and fairly cheap. Around here, maple is really cheap. Red oak is cheaper though. Yeah, I think red oak is probably it depends on where you're at. Different places are going to have different things. You go to Europe and it's going to be different. You go down to South America and it's purple heart. No joke, I know places where purple heart is the cheap wood. And, it's not here. But in red oak is a fairly common cheap wood in the Midwest and most places in the U.S. What else?
Ben Simmons asked, I'd love some with a screwing mechanism where the blade and handle can detach semi-easily to make flattening easier on the stones. Any suggestions there?
What tool is he talking about?
I have no idea. I just copy and pasted.
Can you read it again?
I'd love some with a screwing mechanism where the blade and handle can detach semi-easily to make flattening easier on the stones. Any suggestions there?
Nope.
Ben, you want
Unless you're talking about
that?
router plane blades, because you have it's basically a big L shape, and Veritas makes some where you can unscrew the foot, and some people really like that. I find it to be one more step and kind of annoying, but yeah, you can get them from Veritas, and they do fit the original ones as well. Though I've never gotten one, so.
All right. JM asked, all right, I'll ask a question. How do I convince my wife I should spend 10 times longer building stuff using joints instead of just pocket holes?
Put carving in it.
That's how you convince your wife?
Mm-hmm. It looks really pretty.
That's really how you convince your wife?
Yep. I know women. Throw sushi at them from a safe
Thank
distance.
you. That's a much wiser. Just
Pizza works really well. Yeah.
promise her that you'll do the dishes afterwards. I'm just saying. Most vacuum. I don't know.
If I've learned one thing, it's that every woman is different, and every individual woman is herself different from herself. So good luck.
Now you just said I have dissociative identity disorder.
So
Keep on digging. Keep on digging. And then Jim also asked, I have a whole bunch of white oak in my basement. I'm building a lounge chair for the pool. How well will it behave outdoors, and how best to seal it?
White oak is actually one of the better exterior woods. It has a very long life to it, and is very weather resistant. That being said, no wood is completely weather resistant, and if it's outdoors, it's going to need to be refinished on a regular basis. That's life. Get used to it. There is no such thing as perfection. Now, in some cases, depending upon your tolerance for how things look, you might be able to get 5, 6, 10 years out of something. But in most cases, most people are picky enough that they're probably going to want to refinish something every year, 2 years, maybe more. The best way is the Wood Whisperer's method is you coat it in a what's what I'm looking for, penetrating epoxy. And if you want to see it, go to totalboat.com. They have all the supplies because they sell to boat makers, and that is what you want because you're making something that goes outside. It should be in the water. But a penetrating epoxy will actually soak into the wood and harden the outside crust of it. And then you can put on a marine varnish, so something that's designed to be outside. Now the problem with most marine varnishes is they're really, really shiny, and they're very glossy, and a lot of people don't like that for outdoor furniture. So then you put on another coat of a matte finish of whatever varnish you were getting, and it's a top coat that then goes on and dulls the varnish itself. So it's not a protective coat itself, it works onto that top coat and dulls it. But yes, the penetrating epoxy and marine varnish is really what you're looking for. It's probably the most durable long-term result. And I've seen some furniture that looks really good after 8, 9 years. So yeah. Although some people are going to say you need to redo it constantly, and some people do. It all depends on your own desire and how much you like things outside. I let them go for a long time though because I'm too lazy. No comment?
There was a large comment with no comment. Anyways, Jonathan Farmer asks, besides Paul Sellers, who else would you recommend to follow on YouTube if I'm looking for skilled general hand tool woodworking?
Well, there's a whole pile. Mr. Chickadee, he does a lot more like timber framing and things like that. But he does do some sort of furniture. It's not as much how-to as much just easy watching, but really good channel. Shannon Rogers at the Hand Tool School. He occasionally puts out YouTube videos, but he has a large backlog of good information and videos he's put out in the past. The Hand Tool School. And if you really want the best place online to learn about hand tools by far is the Hand Tool School. So Shannon Rogers has, it's called thehandtoolschool.org, .org, .net, .net. I believe it's .net.
Okay.
It doesn't have .com because there was a dispute. And it didn't come out. But it's, I believe, .net.
It is.
And you have to
Hand
buy
tools.
you have to buy something on there to get into it. But once you bought something at his site, you get an invite to his forum online, which is by far the best information anywhere online about hand tool woodworking. And he has it set up like a school, so you can actually buy semesters. And so you buy an entire semester talking about turning, or talking about basic joinery, or talking about a particular style. And then he also has a, what does he call it, where he actually has one-on-one where he can work with you personally. But it's a phenomenal resource with a crazy amount of information. And so definitely take a look at that, handtoolschool.net. But as of YouTube, there's a few other odds and ends channels you'll come across, but I don't know of anyone else who's really into just hand tool woodworking. There's a lot that do hybrid, but if you're looking for just hand tool, there isn't that much because there aren't too many crazy people like us. She's silent again.
Widukind asks, what would you say black walnut wood is good for?
Oh, everything. Oh yeah, it's a great wood. It's fantastic for furniture, for Things around the kitchen, it's not quite as good at exterior. It's not as rot resistant as some of the other woods. But for most things, it's a phenomenal good wood, and really easy to work with hand tools. So easy to work. It is. If you work with walnut for a while, you'll get very addicted to how easy it is to work with. And depending upon where you are, it can be really cheap. Around here, it is slightly more than maple, not by much. So it's a pretty cheap wood, and you can pick it up most places. You go other places around the country, and walnut becomes a premium. But around here, it's pretty cheap.
All right, let's see. 65 Baja, I'm assuming. I don't know. How much pressure do you use when you strop?
Moderate pressure. I don't push the blade into the strop because, especially if your strop is soft or you have a fuzzy leather, you can actually round the tip. As it goes past, it'll curl up and deform the tip. So I don't use a whole lot of pressure in it. I put that much pressure into it. Again, that's one of those things that it's really hard to explain. I'm not putting my weight over it. I'm just using my arms to put the pressure into it. And it's more or less the impact from the stroke than the actual pressure of the hand pushing into it. So if I had to guess, like 7 to 10 pounds of pressure, if that, maybe 5, something around that range.
Sounds good.
I should put a spring scale on myself sometime. There's a good video in there somewhere.
Tyler Whatman wants to know if you can do a relief carving of a dog out of a log.
I don't do a whole lot of relief carving. If you want to see that, actually go to Chop with Chris. He's another YouTube channel. He does all hand tools as well. But he's more like, not as much furniture as much as carving and odd things. He does bows, and he does weird construction chairs that are made out of logs and other things. And he's got some really interesting stuff there. Doesn't put up a lot of videos, but when he does, I definitely watch his channel. So Chop with Chris. But he does a lot of large relief carving. He did a bunch of Game of Thrones carvings that were absolutely gorgeous. Really good work.
All right. Jake Davenport asks, how does a high-end modern plane compare to a well-tuned vintage? I've got some old planes that I love, but I often wonder if modern planes would be worth the investment.
Almost all of my planes, well, all the planes right here are antique tools, and those are the ones I use every day. They tune up, they work beautifully, and you do not need anything more. That being said, if I were to go up against like a Lee Nielsen, they'd be the exact same in actual functionality once you tuned them up. There really isn't that much of a difference between those. The one caveat I would say to that is Veritas is the custom planes, and this is one that I have, and I want to get a couple more of these. The problem is these make Lee Nielsen look cheap, and let me zoom in on this. Sorry, I can switch over to this. This is a Veritas custom plane, and they've done a bunch of things. The problem with most plane makers is that they've taken a Stanley and they've done the Stanley Bailey plane again. And so they've basically just duplicated what Stanley did 100 years ago. With the Veritas plane, they said, okay, let's start from scratch. Now, you still need the plane in there, and you still need the iron in there and everything else, but this has, number one, an adjustable mouth. So just like you do with a low-angle plane, you can adjust the mouth. When you order this, you can choose which knob you have. You can choose which tote you want. You can choose which angle the iron is at. You can choose the iron that goes into it. It has one of the best Norris adjusters I've ever used. This thing is incredibly, I can fine-tune where the blade is with an unbelievable amount of precision with this thing. One of the best adjusters I've ever had. The lever cap on it is nice. It has these little set screws on the side here. So what you do is once you get it set up just right, you put those two set screws in from the other side, and then you back them out, but just a hair. And so every time you take the iron out and you put it back in, the iron goes into the exact same place every time because the set screws just hold it in place. It's got this micro adjuster here so I can adjust exactly where the mouth stops at. It has a whole bunch of little features like that just make it phenomenal, and it is a joy to use. But functionally, I can get the exact same shavings out of that as I get out of this. There isn't the end product. I can get the exact same thing out of either one. This just is more fun to use because I've tailored this to me. I've chosen the handle that I like. I've chosen all the pieces that I like, and this is incredibly comfortable and fun to use. Now that being said, this is like $450, so you're going to be spending more. So that's my normal. If comfort is important to you, and you really want that high quality tool, a custom Veritas plane is incredibly enjoyable, and they've really rethought hand planes. But that being said, an old Stanley will treat you just as well. I mean, they're a beautiful plane, they work really well, and if you tune them up, they'll serve you for another lifetime or 2 or 3 or more. So, yeah. Hope that answers your question or sends you down a new rabbit trail.
All right.
Time for 1 or 2 more?
Yeah, I have one more.
You have one more? Cool.
Yeah, Jefariland asks, is there any reason to have a hand drill if I already have a power drill?
If the idea of power tools doesn't bother you, great, go for it. Some people are very, very picky in their shop that everything's got to be hand tool. I'm not. If I didn't have a YouTube channel, I'd probably be solidly as a hybrid woodworker. So, no. Functionally wise, a hand drill will, a battery powered drill will do basically the exact same thing. So no, I don't know of any particular reason why anything that a brace will do that a power drill won't do. So, no. Hope that answers your question. Once you actually get good at a brace, it is actually amazing how much force you can put into this. And I can put more torque into this than I can with my DeWalt 18-volt drill, just because of the amount of leverage. Whereas with the drill, my leverage is about this much. With this, my leverage is all the way out here. And I'm actually putting my arm in line with the force as opposed to being across the force. May the force be with you. So, I mean, once you get used to it, you can put a lot of pressure into these and do some pretty impressive things. But that being said, do you need it? No. Hope that answers it. Cool. I think that's about it. We are going to be getting back into doing these every week, Tuesday at 8 p.m. Central Time, so I'm looking forward to seeing you there. And next week, we're probably going to be doing the video that we weren't able to do 2 weeks ago, which is all about hand planes. And I actually want to go into hand planes and talk about their setup, their functionality, different types of them, Western versus Eastern, low angle versus bevel down, and the whole difference back and forth of that. And so if you have any particular question about hand planes, let me know, and we'll be doing that next week, hopefully.
If we didn't get to your question, send it to James in an email, and he will reply back to you.
Cool. I think that's about it for now. So until next time, have a wonderful day.
Bye.
See ya.
Hang on.
Here's the button. We're going to find the button. This is the fun game. Where's the